Welcome to It's Always Sunny in Hollywood, where we talk about movies that range from ugly to bad to good. And this here is a film that we have brought up in the past, and now we're giving it the spotlight at last. And that film is Hoodwinked. My name is Patrick, and who are you guys?
I'm
I'm Red Drummers. I'm Red Drummers.
so confused as how to follow that up, but that's Red Drum Arts. I'm Lugia.
They are indeed, and today we're talking about
Are
Hoodwinked.
you gonna do this the whole time?
Because a witch done put a spell on me. No, I'm not gonna do it the whole time. I was tempted, but no.
If you ever watch Les Miserables, we gotta be staying for the whole thing.
Commit to the bit.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Welcome to It's Always Sunny in. What's the setting of this movie?
The forest.
Just the
Always
forest.
Sunny in the Forest.
I already did the intro. We can move past.
Yeah, I know. Okay. Yeah. Whatever. All right. Yeah. Rest in peace, Alan Arkin. He died.
Rest in peace.
And it's very sad. He's best known. Well, he's an actor. He's been working since like the '50s, so he's known for a lot of roles. He played Inspector Clouseau in the 1968 film, the third installment of the Pink Panther series. And does some voice acting work with the Last Unicorn, a couple other things. He's probably best known for Edward Scissorhands, The Rocketeer, and he was pretty prolific in the '90s. I feel like most of his '90s stuff is the most well known. He was in Gattaca. I know him for the old man, the grandpa in Little Miss Sunshine. I also had a cameo in the Muppets. I guess none of you are too particularly familiar with Alan Arkin.
Unfortunately, I can't say I'm familiar with his work.
Nor can I.
All right. He was in Santa Claus 3. He was in Glengarry Glen Ross, Grosse Point Blank. Those are some of his other big
You're
ones.
naming movies I've never seen.
All right.
You've never
Cool.
seen Santa Claus 3: The Escape
No,
Clause?
I've seen the first two, not the third one though.
Third one is weird.
I don't know. The second
Anyway.
one's pretty weird.
The second one's probably the best one though.
The second one is Robo Santa, Tim Allen.
Yeah, I know, but like, the other stuff is like the best part of the series in my opinion.
The only thing I remember is Robo Santa, Tim Allen.
That is fair. I'm googling Robo Santa right now.
Anyway, before we get to Hoodwinked, we've talked about this movie before, but whatever. We saw The Room in theaters.
That's
Because
right,
Yeah.
because
20th anniversary.
And I feel like the theatrical experience was actually very different. I was much more critical of the movie when we first talked about it, but I feel the theatrical experience actually like improved it greatly for me.
when you're in a theater with a bunch of other people who have most likely seen the movie as many times as you had, and they're in on the joke, it's a great time. It's probably one of the only times you're ever allowed to scream in a movie theater.
Oh, just wait till I show you guys the Rocky Horror Picture Show.
That's quite funny though. Like I felt like the crowd wasn't that disruptive, so like it wasn't actually like
They
like 'cause
well, they did, and by extension, we did by the end.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, but it was like a slow build up, and like what I like about that is like other people told me that like their experiences were kind of terrible because people were like screaming like every like couple seconds, but here like we actually like all the riffs came out like naturally and shit. It didn't feel too annoying.
You say that,
like-
but everyone stayed silent for the flower shop scene.
Yeah, that's a good thing. That I think they stayed silent. Everyone's like, "It's the scene. Shut up."
I am not one of the bigger fans of The Room. I mean, I like it fine, but seeing it with other people, like you said, Red, it really does enhance the experience. Like, I think any movie is better if you watch it with an audience.
I feel like comedies in particular are, and this
Yeah.
one felt like you were watching a regular comedy because people were just like laughing like it was
Because
like
they treated it
regular
like a
comedy
comedy.
film. Yeah. Well, here's the thing. They did for like for a while, but towards the end of the film, I feel like everyone in the audience, they started like doing this bit where they were pretending they watched an actual drama and were like identifying with Johnny and reacting exactly like Tommy intended. Like remember
They
like,
were yelling bitch at Lisa.
Well, yeah.
it's like you vile woman, you destroyed this poor man.
And everyone
Watching the-
loved Denny. Like, every time he appeared on screen, everyone gave him a round of applause. Even at the end, like, when they're, like, going up to Johnny's dead body, like, Denny just appears like, yo, Denny! It was so funny.
Watching on the big screen, I felt like it made me appreciate some of the shittier details. like when you're at home watching this on like your laptop, you don't really notice how poor the resolution is, or how like close they film like the shots to people's faces and shit.
Or
Yeah, and
some of
here
the
you do,
awkward
and
Yeah,
camera movements.
you really do notice the issues of the technicals and the cinematography when it's inflated on a giant screen.
yeah, I also I liked I like when I watched it the first time, I was also like kind of focused on the people that were talking. But like in this one, I noticed more like background stuff, and like so many people put on like really weird facial expressions. There was like a bunch of like micro facial expressions that were really fucking funny.
Not to do with the movie itself, but I couldn't help but notice I was the only person in the entire theater who actually dressed up.
Okay, at least I brought you spoons, so you can't say I wasn't
Well,
prepared.
well, yeah, but I thought a rite of passage when watching The Room in an auditorium was you dress up in a tux.
I didn't know that. No one told me.
I thought that isn't that a rite of passage, Lugia? You're the expert,
I mean, it's not required,
but it's fun.
but it shows your dedication.
Oh, this
I
go
literally
around.
walked out the theater and people were like, "Dude, nice tux." I think one person even asked me, "Please tell me you didn't rent it." I said, "No, it's mine." He's like, "Okay, good."
Now, where's the football?
I feel like I appreciated the side characters more this go around, like Lisa, Mike, and Peter. Because I feel like everyone always talks about Johnny, Mark, Lisa, Denny, but Lisa's friend, her boyfriend, Mike, and Peter, I thought they were also pretty really funny.
Now,
So
which
yeah,
Peter are you talking about? Because there's technically two of them.
yeah. I guess Peter one I thought was funnier than Peter two, because like he was going for this like intellectual thing, and I was like,
But you
I don't
always
know.
play
Oh,
psychologist
So
with
you
us.
vastly prefer the
you're always
original
playing
Peter
psychology
to the
with
sequel
you're always playing psychology with us, Peter. Even the sex scenes seemed funnier because like it was with the crowd. Like at home, it just felt
Yeah,
really awkward. At home, it just felt really awkward and kind of boring because there were so many. But here, like it was a lot funnier because everyone was like, cracking up and also being like, "Oh, here's number five, here's number six."
Yes, every
yeah.
time like a new sex scene was coming up, people were chanting in the audience, "Oh, here it comes! Here's the next one, round two." I think I was the one that started that actually.
Probably.
Yeah, you were. I forgot there were nipples in those scenes. It really stood out when all blown up like that. Just like Tommy's like nip, just dead center in the screen. I'm like, okay. Oh,
And
I
every
remember
time
when
they moaned, like everyone laughed.
the whole audience like clapped and cheered when Tommy stood up and you saw his bare ass.
Yeah,
Mhm. What's your favorite quote from the movie?
that
I'm
is
not
a
sure my
good
favorite
question.
like I don't know what my favorite quote is, but two of my favorite scenes is right after like the robbery shit happens and the like everyone's like but Danny, what kind of money? Because like it's so funny how Lisa says like the same line like 5 times in a row. Like it just keeps going on. I just think that whole scene is hilarious, and obviously the flower shop high doggy scene is great.
I would say either the flower shop scene or the Oh Hi Mark scene in its entirety.
Yeah. My favorite quote though is easily anyway, how's your sex life?
Yes.
My favorite quote is such a great party. You invited all my friends. Good thinking.
Yeah.
The good thinking is the cherry on top for me.
I liked Mike's facial expressions because they were the funniest, goofiest shit. And yeah, so overall, 10 out of 10 viewing experience. Would recommend.
I guess you could call
Uh,
this our The Room retrospective redux.
Mm-hmm.
yes.
Sorry,
I'll be real.
Hoodwinked.
I'll be real. I remember in episode 100, Luca, you asked what's an episode you'd like to redo. Honestly, I feel like I could have done better with our room episode.
Well, you got your chance now. So
I know. I mean,
Well, it was a different experience altogether.
it was a different experience, but like I don't know. Even still, I feel like I kind of made it seem like I liked the movie more than I did. I mean, I like it, but like I'm not crazy about it. And the disaster artist, I had very little to say. I feel like that half of the video in particular could have been like, hey, opinion.
actually saw what's really fun is like the day before we saw
That was
again.
also the episode I recommended for Revengeance, so definitely would have done something else.
This was actually kind of funny. So the day before we saw the room again, a YouTuber I watched uploaded a video where he compared the disaster artist book to the film, and that was kind of interesting. So I got to see what
Algorithm's working.
changes. Yeah, I got to see what changes Franco made, and also I guess get a more complete perspective. he was honestly kind of horrified by the book because he was like, "This is." I feel like I'm just watching domestic abuse. Like that, Tommy's just abusing this man, Greg. And then he also was like, also at one point they kind of casually mentioned that Tommy got into like this car accident before he came to LA, and like it somewhat like suggested that he has brain damage. Also, he might have worked for the mafia, and that's why he has money. I was like, huh, what a weird fella.
You think the world will ever know the true Tommy Wiseau story?
Eventually.
Yeah, maybe. Apparently, he was like from the Soviet Union or something, and he like moved to Europe or something after the Red Curtain fell, the Iron Curtain
Make
fell.
him the new Dos Equis guy. He truly is the most interesting man in the world. Is it Hoodwink time?
Yeah, I think we're
Yes.
done with our The Room 2 Electric Boogaloo.
All right. It's time to get hoodwinked, baby. So, Hoodwinked was directed by Corey Edwards, and the story of how it came to be is quite fascinating. Corey and his brother Todd both wanted to make a movie, and by chance they met with entrepreneur Maurice Kanbar, and they said, "Hey, we want to make a movie." And Kanbar said, "Hey, you know what? I'm interested in animation. If you make an animated film, I'll provide all the financing." And the brothers were like, "Yeah, sure." I mean, we weren't expecting to make an animated film, but if this is our gateway, we'll take it. And they had the idea to take a familiar story that everybody knew and retell it in a new way. And they decided on Red Riding Hood because it was both a story that was simple enough to take in many creative directions, and it was also one of the few fairy tales that didn't have a definitive Disney version. The crew drew inspiration from nonlinear crime films such as Rashomon, Pulp Fiction, and Memento, as well as classic cartoons like Looney Tunes, The Simpsons, and Wallace and Gromit. They also intentionally tried to distance the film from Shrek by making the humor less cynical and satirical. And
I don't really think they succeeded, but yeah.
Yeah, this definitely did remind me of Shrek.
well, we'll,
Madagascar too.
we'll get there. We'll get there. Anyway, so fun fact: the voice cast for the film was originally made up of family and friends of the crew, though they did have some notable actors. Patrick Warburton, David Ogden Stiers, and Andy Dick were all part of the cast initially. But when the film was picked up by the Weinstein Company, they added Anne Hathaway, Glenn Close, Jim Belushi, Exhibit, and a bunch of others to redub the film because, celebrities. Hoodwink premiered in select theaters in December 2005 before releasing wide in January 2006. And while reviews were mixed, the film was quite a success at the box office, making 14 times its budget because it made 110 million against a budget of less than 8 million. It's never specified what the budget is, but it's around that ballpark. And now people like me won't shut up about it. So, quick
Yes.
question: what is our experience with this film beforehand?
So,
Grew up.
you want to go first or should I?
No, that's all I really have to say. I grew up with it. That's really it.
As
Okay.
This
did
movie I
I.
watched
I
as a
saw. I
kid.
remember. I saw this movie when it first came out in theaters.
I only caught it on TV a couple times, like way back in the day.
Yeah, no, I saw this in theaters too. I also saw the second one in theaters.
I did not see the
Unfortunately.
second one in theaters, and no.
And I think I only caught a bit of the second one. I don't think I saw that one in full.
And before anybody asks, I do not plan on picking the second film for an
I
episode.
know it's supposed to be bad.
I'm
It's
not recommending that either.
not.
It's not even like a fun kind of bad. It's just boring. It's kind of a lame film.
It's honestly depressing, just because of like how inferior it is.
Yeah, it's like
Let me save some time. The funniest scene in Hoodwink 2, no context, is when a giant makes a Goodfellas reference and then slaps a rhino in the face. It's the funniest scene. It's 5 seconds long. It has nothing to do with the rest of the movie, but it's by
yep,
far the funniest part.
yeah.
So that does it for
Yeah,
Hoodwink 2. We're closing the book. We're never opening it.
yep.
Anyway, first
Uh,
Hoodwinked, the Hoodwinked we like. So, what is this Hoodwinked thing all about? So, plot synopsis is that Hoodwinked is the classic story of Little Red Riding Hood, but told through the lens of a crime scene investigation. The bigger picture is that various sweets and recipes are being stolen all over the forest, and since Granny's recipes are the only ones that have yet to be taken, the police believe that one of the four is the bandit. So each of the characters, Red, Granny, the wolf, and the woodsman, they all tell their version of how the story unfolded from their perspectives, with the police hoping to get clues on who could be the elusive Goody Bandit. And
yeah.
before we actually jump into the movie, let's just address the elephant in the room: the animation.
This is a
Yep.
2005 animated film. It feels like a 2000 animated film.
It
The whole movie kind of looks like a PlayStation 1 FMV, if I'm being real.
it does not look good. It has aged worse than pretty much every Pixar movie.
Well, going back to Shrek, that looks a lot better than this movie.
That being said, there are still some admirable elements. I felt some of the character designs are pretty good, like the frog, the wolf. So it has like some base appeal, but I don't know. I feel like I'm surprised they didn't make this film 2D animated because it would have looked better 2D animated and it would have costed less. But I guess 3D animation was just the trend at the time, so they
Well,
went with that. But,
you
yeah,
know, in the 2000s, CGI was all the craze, and 2D movies weren't doing so hot.
yeah, but they weren't doing hot because they were 2D. They weren't doing it hot because no one made a good one in a while.
Well, people were, I don't know, the history of
Home on the
2D and 3D
Range,
is
everyone's favorite Disney movie.
So
okay.
just to add on to the animation complaint, I have another complaint that's gonna
Mhm.
seem a little off. The voice acting is surprisingly really good.
Yeah, no, the voice acting was fantastic.
Which is
But when the
yeah,
animation
surprisingly.
doesn't do the voice acting justice, it creates this weird dissonance with the whole movie that I'm just not comfortable with.
But the thing about the voice acting is that it's even more impressive when you consider half of the cast redubbed the film,
Yeah.
which I never knew until I did research for it. I'm like, really? That was never meant to be Anne Hathaway? Like, it fits so perfectly.
I like how they got some actual voice acting talent too. You got Patrick Warburton, Tom Kenny, Tara Strong. So it's like a mix of like
Mhm.
seasoned voice actors and regular actors.
But to wrap up on the animation, I have two more things to say. One, okay, yes, the animation isn't good, but I'm gonna be honest. I think there's a weird charm to it, just from how low budget it is and how much they tried to make it work. And how even within certain aspects, like the fact that Twitchy is animated in less frames per second actually works to the character's benefit, considering how fast paced he
Yeah,
is.
Twitchy was fine.
Twitchy and the goat were great.
Yeah, like the goat using his horns as a rocking chair was pretty creative. I also like how at the beginning of the police
I think the
investigation, the
designs were good.
cinematography has like a handheld feel to it with how the
Yeah.
camera zooms in and around to different characters. I wish they kind of kept that throughout, but
The shot composition wasn't bad. The modeling wasn't bad. It was just the actual
the
movements,
rendering.
and I would say and the rendering was like that was the off part.
Honestly, though, like I know the animation is the biggest complaint people have with this movie. You know how like Shrek and the first SpongeBob movie got a reanimated version? I feel like Hoodwinked would benefit greatly from that. Like,
Yeah,
get like a bunch of online animators to redo scenes from the movie. Like, I think it would work great. And like people would
kind
like
of
open their eyes to like the other like good quality aspects of the film. Because I'm gonna be real, I think this movie is like really well written and really funny.
So this will never happen, but I thought it'd be interesting if for the reanimate project because like we keep seeing things from like different perspectives, like each perspective is done in like a different art style or something.
It depends on
I
how
I
many animators are collaborating.
I'd totally
Yeah,
be
I know.
down for Hoodwinked reanimated. But anyway, okay, I think we got everything out regarding the animation. Let's look at the movie itself. What do we think?
Very
Actually,
touch screenplay.
I want Lugia to start because
Oh,
he's
go
the one
ahead.
who's seen this movie the least of us. I'm sorry, Red.
Go ahead.
So I am very conflicted about what I feel about Hoodwinked. I liked it? Question mark. I do like the whole approach of taking a classic fairy tale that everyone knows and turning it into a whodunit sort of movie. But you kind of see the twist from a mile away. Like by the time you get to the wolf story, you realize like who's actually like the culprit and like where it goes from there. It's really
Ye-
hard to put into words like how I feel about this movie.
So you think conceptually it's great. You feel like the execution is a bit iffy.
Yeah, and I get it. It's a kids movie. It's not supposed to be like this complex mystery, but I felt like they could have gone the extra mile.
I will admit, they could have done a bit more, like maybe having other characters interspersed into all four stories. Like I don't know, maybe the goat is tied to everybody, or that little bird Red talked to that one time. Like you could have more characters interact with everybody, but I feel like the focus. I feel like it's the focus isn't so much who did it, but how everybody views it. If that makes sense.
It is
Yeah,
cool to get the different perspectives. Like initially you
that's
think that the
what
wolf
I'm.
is just like the big bad wolf, you know, like from the story, but no, he's a news reporter. He has a reason for tracking down Little Red Riding Hood. I thought that was an interesting lens, but like when it came to the actual like finale of that whole story, it fell flat.
I will admit the third act
It,
is the weakest part of the film. I still like it.
I know you guys probably aren't going to understand this, but I feel like the movie was at its best when it was leaning more into Rashomon, and it was at its worst when it leaned more into like the usual suspects. Because Rashomon was a film that did the thing you're talking about, where it's like, oh, the different perspectives, everyone views it differently, and you kind of you learn about the characters through how they view it and how it contrasts with other people's viewing of the story. That's like what Rashomon did. The Usual Suspects was more like this story where you're just kind of like having this sort of mystery unveiled like through this specific like lens and stuff and like that one's much more focused on the mystery when Rashomon's much more focused on the characters, and I feel like the character stuff was the best part, but the actual mystery was weak.
Yeah.
I thought it was weak in The Usual Suspects too. I don't really like that movie, but yeah. Speaking of characters, who was your favorite character?
Probably the wolf, but I feel like he's everybody's favorite.
I,
Yeah,
I'd lean towards the wolf end or Granny.
yeah, the wolf and the goat I feel like are super. But the one I found particularly funny about this movie, it was surprisingly influential because like when I rewatched it, I was like, the rabbit. I was like, that rabbit, Secret Life of Pets just ripped it off, and then like the granny, I was like, the Lorax just ripped that off, and I'm like, man, someone at working at Illumination must have like fucking loved this movie because like so many like little bits and stuff I remember like seeing in like Illumination stuff, and I'm like, huh, interesting.
Speaking of the goat, yeah, this movie is kind of a musical, but it's a musical in the same vein as something like the Rugrats movie, where there are songs, but it's they're like very brief and
I
they don't
mean, some
really
of the characters do
move stuff
sing
forward.
those songs, and there's enough to
Yeah.
warrant it being called a musical.
It's so funny rewatching this because I completely forgot it was a musical. So I was just like, oh, I don't remember this. And then the Schnitzel song happened. I was like, oh wait, I remember the Schnitzel song. That's the only one I remember like prior.
Of course, Patrick would recommend another musical. He just disguised it as an animated film.
Hey, animated films can be musicals. That's
Yeah, but
very
typically not
common,
3D
actually.
animated. Not, typically not 2000s 3D animated ones though. The animated musical really fell out of
Surprise.
fashion in the 2000s. Yeah.
Speaking of 2000s, you guys said you felt like this movie didn't differ enough from Shrek.
More so in the parody department, which
Yeah, I mean,
was
it
the whole
reminds me a
point
little
of
bit more of
Shrek.
like it reminds me a little bit more of like Into the Woods than Shrek, admittedly. But like, here's the thing: there are a lot of like movies in the 2000s that had a similar kind of parody or reverent humor to it. Even looking at like Disney themselves, like everyone always acts like Shrek like broke new ground. But I was like, in the 90s there was like Hercules and whatchamacallit, Aladdin, and then like in the 2000s you had like Emperor's New Groove and like shit, and then this is much better than like Chicken Little or like Madagascar in my opinion, but like it's all like in a very similar familiar ballpark of like the post Shrek world.
Okay, I see what you're coming from, but I disagree with the Shrek comparison because Shrek is the whole point of Shrek is to lampoon fairy tales and really like jab at them and pick them apart. Hoodwinked, like, yeah, there's a few jabs here and there, like they acknowledge, oh, this character is singing. Yeah, cool. But like it's
The
not so
thing
I
is
don't
like
think it's not so much a parody as it is just like a retelling.
the thing
And
is,
it
is
just
like
so happens that it
the
has
first
some
the
modern
first Shrek movie was
inaccuracies.
more trying to like parody fairy tales, but I feel like from the second one to like the rest of the franchise onward, they were more trying to do this like using the pieces of the fairy tale to tell its like own sort of like lore and stuff, like like
That's the thing. I personally wouldn't call Hoodwinked a parody because like the focus it doesn't feel like the focus is that it's making fun of fairy tales. It's just retelling it. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I see where you're coming from.
I see what you're coming from, but I feel like Shrek does that too, which is why like I'm still like still reminds me a lot of Shrek. You know?
I guess. I
Like
mean,
I'm just saying, I don't really see how oh the big bad wolf is actually a reporter is all that different from being like Puss in Boots is a bandit. You know? You have this one impression of how the character is supposed to be, and then you're revealed that they're actually something else, but the story still ends up transforming into something somewhat familiar. I feel like Shrek kind of did that. Even like with Fiona, you're like, oh, classic princess. You expect her to be like Sleeping Beauty, and but nah, she's this like kung fu chick, and you kind of and it still kind of falls into the traditional like kind of Beauty and the Beast kind of story with more moral wise. So like I kind of feel like I really do feel like Shrek kind of had like a similar idea with like the things aren't quite what it seems, but it still kind of falls into this sort of traditional story, even with all the subversions.
Fair
But I
enough.
will say though, I think part of the reason why I think Hoodwinked is better than all the other Shrek similar films is that Hoodwinked actually kind of understood this core appeal of Shrek, where like it was this thing. Because if you look at like Chicken Little, yeah, it tries to do that, but it doesn't really. It sucks. Like it's not. I don't know. Like Shark Tale, Madagascar. Madagascar is okay, but like there's a lot of
I
other
will,
movies that try to do what Shrek and Hoodwink did, but like it just did not succeed.
I will
I
admit,
don't know,
I will
Zootopia.
admit, Chicken Little is a guilty pleasure of mine, but like I do see the problems. I do get why people hate it.
Here's a real question though: is it better than the Romeo and Juliet series?
I've only seen the first one. I don't remember much
As have
about it, so
I.
I will say yes.
Yeah, we need to. I need to rewatch Sherlock Gnomes and Zootopia, all the animated like mystery detective films. Then we'll compare. It was a truly great one. Roger Rabbit. Roger Rabbit was actually kind of a parody of cartoons. We didn't talk about the Huntsman,
Woodsman,
the Woodsman. Yeah,
the Schnitzel Man.
He was hunting down
he's
trees, that's for
hilarious. Like
sure.
he's hilarious, and I don't know. I remember like the twist with like Okay, so like the last act was kind of like whatever, but I thought like every time like you got to like the end of like each person's story and you see how it all like comes together, I thought that stuff was actually like really funny every time. And like the one that cracked me up the most is like how the Huntsman story, the Woodsman story ends, because like it's like it was so absurd and like
You realize, okay, this guy has nothing to do with anything.
Yeah.
the fun was like when you see how Granny's story kind of intersects with Red's. It's kind of weird. Granny's like one of the most memorable parts of the movie, but I feel like her actual storyline was kind of whatever. Red was a strong character. Anne Hathaway was honestly like such a perfect casting because she was in Princess Diaries and stuff like that, and I feel like she kind of brought like a similar energy to it.
Yeah, I find it funny how Red is supposed to be like really sarcastic in this movie. Like she takes no one's shit.
And you got Glenn Close who played
Granny.
Cruella.
Granny Puckett, the goody lady.
Anyway, let's see any other last comments I have
We
about
didn't really
this.
talk about the humor.
I thought we did. I mean, yeah, it's decently funny, you know.
Yeah, I laughed a couple times.
Just a couple.
Just a couple.
Okay.
Hey, that's better than Chuck and Larry.
Well, yeah, but this is an entirely different beast from Chuck and Larry.
Yeah, honestly,
I don't know. One gag. This is so brief, but one bit that always gets a laugh out of me is that brief cut to Twitchy in a sheep costume. Like it's literally like a second long, but it gets me every time. You guys know the scene I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
yeah. Actually, I think overall was just like one of the funniest parts of the film. I feel like almost all of his gags landed. Which is funny because I feel like it would be annoying. Like that Twitchy seems like a character that kids would love, but adults would find irritating. But nah, I thought he was. I still thought
They
he was
don't
funny. So,
overuse him, and I'm very thankful for that.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I heard the second one. I don't remember the second one at all, but I know the second one
Second one
apparently
butchered his
used him a
character
lot.
because
Yeah.
they basically, instead of speeding up his voice, they just pitched it up. It doesn't work. It's just annoying.
So it's like what they did
But
with
again, I
Fred.
thought we closed the book on Hoodwink 2, never to reopen
Yes,
it, except
I
for
like how Hoodwink
that
2
one
was
funny
spelled
Rhino
Hoodwink
bit.
2 Too because Hoodwinked also makes no sense.
I mean, Red Riding Hood, hoodwinked. They've been tricked. Hood,
Yeah,
like whatever. It's obvious, but
Boy Scouts in the Hood.
the hood, boys in the hood. No,
That's a different
girls
movie.
in fairy tale creatures in the. I don't know. So yeah, do we have anything else to add?
Arnold Schwarzenegger was there.
No, that wasn't him.
No, not him, like for real, but like there was a character that was
Well,
basically
yeah,
supposed to be him.
yeah, clearly.
I thought the frog was interesting. It kind of reminded me of how they animated the frogs in Flushed Away.
Another movie
Uh,
with not great animation, but really funny writing. At least in
I
my
thought
opinion.
Flushed Away's animation was good.
It's not great, but I
It
didn't
had a
get
It's not
style
as
to
good
it.
as it's not as good as their actual stop motion stuff, but like it's good.
I think Hoodwinked is like a perfect example of don't judge a book by its cover. They even say at the beginning of the movie you can't judge a book by its cover. But yeah, despite the cheap animation, like I still think it's like a really funny. It has an interesting perspective to it. Sure, it's not perfect by any means, but like it entertains me all the way out, all the way through, no matter how many times I've seen it.
I'm leaning towards I liked it, but it's like a 6 out of 10 for me.
I think it's
I was
solid. I'll give it like a 6 or 7.
I was really curious how you would feel about this movie in particular, Lugia. Like I was really curious if the animation would be a real deal breaker for you.
Well, I mean, I'm
Like I
pretty
don't
sure
know
the
how,
sequel's gonna be a deal breaker for me.
I'm not choosing.
I
How many
know.
times must I say we're closing the
I
book?
know.
The sequel's animation isn't actually that bad. That's not the issue with the sequel.
Well, yeah, okay, they improved the animation slightly, but everything else got significantly worse. I don't think
Yeah,
it's a
no,
fair
that's what I'm
trade.
saying. That's what I'm saying. Like, if the animation is the thing that bother you about Hoodwinked 1, like, Hoodwinked 2 has good animation, but it's a worse film. So, like, it says something.
I grew up with this movie, so the animation doesn't really bother me. Like it has its problems, like, but again, I feel like there's a weird low budget charm to it.
You know what? I could kind of relate. I've seen the Polar Express a lot, and I know that people complain about the animation for that movie, but like when I look back on it, I'm like, it doesn't look that bad.
Anyway, yeah, thumbs up. Recommend. Not like a super high thumbs up, not 2 thumbs up, but like 1 thumbs up.
Okay,
Let's
yeah.
see.
So are
It's
we
your
closing
turn.
the book on this fairy tale?
I think we are.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was definitely a long time coming.
Yes, it was. Yes, it was. Anyway, I believe it is my turn,
Yes, it
correct?
is.
Correct.
So, I was in the mood for a Western because I feel like we haven't done that in a while. And then I thought, we've talked about foreign films before, but we've never talked about an Indian foreign film before. And the most famous and successful movie in Indian history
Oh
is a
wait.
Western.
Oh wait, no, this isn't
What?
what I'm thinking of, is it?
No, it's from like the 60s.
Okay, yeah, no,
What are
this
You
you
were
thinking of?
were you thinking of RRR?
I was.
It's
Uh-huh.
not RRR, a much more recent film. This is a classic. This is like India's Star Wars, as in it was just like the biggest movie ever. It was a huge influence, cultural milestone. Here's the thing. The fascinating thing about Sholay is that Sholay never really left theaters. It still plays in theaters and it still sells out theaters. It is regarded as the greatest, most influential film in Indian history. Like in terms of its like blockbuster pop culture, it is. If there's like one Indian film you see, it is Sholay.
Is that the film?
19, yeah, Sholay, 1975, directed by Ramesh Sippy.
This isn't the '60s. You lied to me.
It's 75. Sorry, I forgot. I couldn't remember what year it was until
Jesus
1975.
Christ! Wikipedia says it has a 204-minute runtime.
Wait,
Yeah,
really?
all Indian films are long as shit. You guys didn't know that?
I mean,
Oh,
RRR was kind of long, but wow.
Yeah, Indian films have intermissions. Like every Indian film's like 3 hours long. It's like a play. Yeah, no, every Indian film is long as shit. This is like a 3.5 hour long movie.
this is the only movie I've seen with an intermission is Chitty Chitty Bang Bang.
Yeah, no, I mean that's the thing. Here's the thing. India is very influenced by like old Hollywood stuff. It was like when that came out, and in America we had the Hollywood New Wave that really phased out a lot of those like older Hollywood techniques. But that never happened in India. So in India, these 3 hour big event, musicals. Like it's a musical, by the way. So because every Indian movie is kind of a musical. But yeah. So every Indian film is like a big 3 hour epic musical. It's like a comedy. It's like every genre. They're meant to be these giant events. Yeah, I'm just saying, like when the intermission happens, take the intermission,
All
okay?
right.
Okay. I have a funny story though. So, me, my dad, and brother went to go see the first Hobbit movie in theaters when it first came out, and that's like a 3 hour movie or close to 3 hours. And I remember there was a point near the end of the movie, one of the characters says something where you think the movie's gonna go on for like another hour, but then he immediately says like something else to contradict it, and the whole theater went, "Oh, thank God!"
Yeah, no, I remember the exact line because it was the elf boy or whatever, not the elf boy, the dwarf was like, "You fucking thief, I hate you, kill yourself," and then he was like, "But you're actually kind of dope."
Yes,
And
that's the line. Like, not exactly, but yes.
so yeah. Actually, if we ever talk about one of the Lord of the Rings movies, that's gonna be the longest one we talk about because
in case you didn't know, the Lord of the Rings movies is longer than this, like all of them.
They're about
first
like
Lord of the
3
Rings movie-
That
hours.
is why, still to this day, I have not seen them. I
I've
will
seen
one
the
day.
first two.
I will one day, but that'll be on
Oh,
my
the
own
third one's like the
terms.
best one. Fellowship of the Ring is like the exact same length as this film. If you look at, okay, there's something very misleading about Fellowship of the Ring. I don't know why, but for some reason, Fellowship of the Ring has 30 minutes of credits or something. I don't know. Fellowship of the Ring is like 4 hours long. Then the Two Towers is like, the Two Towers is also 4 hours long. And how long is? I know Return of the King is the longest one, so Return of the King is 4.5 hours long. Yeah. I can't believe people watch this shit in theaters. Jesus Christ. RR and a lot of Indian film. Here's another thing with the intermission. With the intermission, it doesn't like stop like halfway like through the movie. It's not arbitrary. Like the movie are basically structured was like you're basically watching two movies. Where like there's the first half, there's like kind of the cliffhanger, like an Empire Strikes Back type thing, and then you come and see the second half. So it's kind of like, if you ever seen like Pirates of the Caribbean 2 and 3, or like Back to the Future 2 and 3, where like you're kind of left off with a cliffhanger. It's just instead of having to wait a year to see the next movie, you just wait like 15 minutes.
You go empty your bladder, and then you come back, and the next movie is
Yeah.
started.
This is going to be an interesting viewing experience, I think, for you guys, because Indian movies are very, very different from Hollywood pictures. But I also think you'll probably like it because Indian films are, at least like the film, this film, and like the ones I'm recommending. Like this isn't an art film. This is just a fun blockbuster for the family to watch. It's fun little Western. That was really funny. There's this anime that came out recently called Oshinoko, and when all my friends were telling me to watch it, so I read what the summary, what like the plot synopsis was on Wikipedia, and I was just like, guys, this is a Bollywood movie. Like there are like 12 movies like this in Bollywood that like Om Shanti Om. That this is just that movie, and they're like, oh, I didn't know that because so you know how there's revenge movies in America? Bollywood also has revenge movies, but because like a lot of American films are kind of influenced by like Christianity, so it has like kind of that sort of system. But obviously Bollywood is Hinduism, and Hinduism believe in reincarnation. So we have reincarnation revenge films where basically a person gets killed and then they get reincarnated, and then like their reincarnation gets revenge for them as like some like spiritual like
My
karma
death was
shit.
greatly exaggerated.
Yeah. So that's
or
basically
that,
what
or that one scene from
Oshinoko
Ice
is.
Age 3. Were you killed? Sadly, yes. But I
Yeah,
lived.
but effectively that's the plot of Oshinoko, but that's also the plot of like a bunch of like Indian stuff. So I was like, oh, okay, interesting. Even like the guy who made RRR, he did a revenge, reincarnation revenge film. It's called Iga. The guy gets reincarnated as a fly, and the fly murders people. Anyway, Sholay, next week. Yeah, I had to preface a lot just because it's gonna be a very different viewing experience. I know like other times I've done bizarre movies, it's kind of filtered. So just be prepared for the long haul. Be prepared for this big like old Hollywood big musical extravaganza, but it's also like an action film, like a Western.
I'm down for that.
One of my favorite endings of all time. Actually, I fucking love the ending. Like I genuinely like if we ever make a Western, I am ripping this movie off. It's not going to be 3 hours in my version, but there's elements that I'm going to be taking, definitely for sure. I guess that's the end of the episode. Anyone have anything else to say?
No, I think that's it.
All right.
Okay.
So ending. Okay. All's Bunion Cream has the soothing formula to make the bunions head for the hills.